I'm hopeful for the future. It's very easy to not be because of everything. But I think that the way the world is starting to listen to each other for all marginalised people is hopeful, and I feel excited to see what happens in the next 10 years and see what happens in the next 20. I'm Freddie Lewis.
It's Kezia Oseafrie.
I'm Neo Tenwai.
Andrea Di Giovanni.
And my pronouns are he, him.
Pronouns are he, she.
I am non-binary and pansexual.
My pronouns are he, she, they.
Being trans to me, all it means, because gender doesn't really exist, like it's socially constructed, and I think its only function is really to divide. So what trans means in that context is that we are the people who felt passionately enough about ourselves to step outside of what everyone expected of us and embody that and become that and live that. I think masculinity and femininity to me are kind of ways to present yourself and ways to understand yourself. I think that often we think one is the absence of the other, but truly they're like so intertwined.
To me, masculinity and femininity is like a blurred line. I think that we should be able to express ourselves in any type of form, and that we shouldn't restrict ourselves not only by that form, and we should be able to grow from that as well.
The more we talk about gender as a construct, better it is for society. The better it is for us to move forward, the more we decode gender, the more self-realization takes place within the public consciousness. And that self-realization is what allows us the freedom to be ourselves.
My earliest memory of gender roles is definitely my father and my mother and my family. And I think that, for the man to be somewhat, the money maker and the one who, take care of the family that way, and the mother being more nurturing of the kids, a very stereotyped, awful, gendered view of the world. So that's what I grew up into, and I think it impacted hugely the way I saw gender roles up until I sort of started to define them, and I was hugely impacted by the idea of the man should do one thing whilst the woman should do one other, and it's very, very, very men-centric, very patriarchal as a view.
I think toxic masculinity is dangerous to all parties. I think the more I've been accepted into cis male spaces, the more I've understood how painful toxic masculinity is for the beholder. It messes up men, truly, and it messes up the people around them because they project outward their tiny ideas of what masculinity and femininity and manhood and womanhood and everything in between can be, and that's all it is. It's just a deep insecurity of I feel like I have to be in this box, so everyone around me has to be in that box too. I remember being completely unbothered by gender as a child. I went to ballet and I would wear my football kit home, and I would go surfing on the beach and have plaits in my hair and wear trunks, and none of it mattered. I think the first time I really remember gender roles impacting my life was when I started to try and access trans healthcare, and all of the questions that they asked me were did you play with boys' toys as a kid and stuff like that, and it's just that was the first time that I ever really considered it in relation to my childhood.
Being non-binary is something that I never really understood when I was a kid, because it was never taught to us. And now being able to say I'm non-binary has I feel like it's elevated my ego, but it's elevated like everything that I've done, to the point where I'm like, okay, so the reason why I did this as a kid is not because I was a tomboy. Oh no, it's because I just never cared about the gender standard subconsciously. It's just only now I've been able to not care about it. And yeah, being non-binary has just allowed me to connect more with other people.
Nothing makes you more or less trans or more or less non-binary. You're just, you're yourself, right? And labels exist to like help people, but at the end of the day, like, disidentify and be your authentic self. And if you feel that your authentic self in this moment has been driven to like change however drastically you want to change, then that's your prerogative, and it's awesome. Every single person is different and everyone's narrative is different. I think that healthcare should be made more available to everyone who needs healthcare. I think that loving yourself is the most important thing, and the first thing that we should be teaching anyone is self-love, and that, you know, you are enough and anything else is supplementary, you know?
I have huge privileges first of all, for being white. My white privilege is right there. And I also have privileges, cis-passing privileges. And, you know, as trans people, yes, of course, we are marginalized, but however, white trans people still have privilege, and we should never forget that.
I think things are definitely changing. I think more people than ever actually just know what trans is and who trans people are. I think there's still a long way to go in terms of changing social attitudes and ideas about what trans people are and who they are, because there's still like a very like A to B perception of like what transition is and what trans plus individuals identify as.
You don't want to create that dynamic. I think that we should be able to love one another without having that mindset that you need to follow this strict religious rule or you need to be this type of way, because at the end of the day, it's never going to be like that. You're never going to plan your life to become this way. That is how we were born. And I think that most parents think that it's a choice, and it's not a choice. It really isn't. How would it be a choice for me to pick something that you don't like? That's what I think parents should be able to sit with. Personally, with me, I don't think I've ever been best represented, just because most black people that are represented, it falls down on the light skin and it goes down on the colorisms, and I've never truly could see myself in a dark-skinned non-binary person. Before, I could see myself in a dark-skinned female, but then again it causes me to have a lot of gender imbalances, and it's not something that I would adhere to. And to me personally, I think that the media needs to be more accepting of non-binary in all different colours.
Every single person is different and everyone's narrative is different. I think that healthcare should be made more available to everyone who needs healthcare. I think that loving yourself is the most important thing, and the first thing that we should be teaching anyone is self-love, and that, you know, you are enough and anything else is supplementary, you know?
You're loved, you're incredibly loved, you're supported, and a lot of people will not understand you. A lot of people won't stand the fact that you have an innate power within yourself, which is the power of transcending, you know, a lot of things about normality and kind of like being outside, being an outsider, somebody who does things against what's trendy. And that's honestly, that's your biggest, you know, selling point when it comes to your personality, your career, and everything. So just keep on staying grounded and just don't be so angry at yourself. Love yourself more.
I think that young people and parents can be better allies by listening more. And I think also it requires like a level of forgiveness from both sides. I think a lot of the people who have been able to educate and who have since become allies to the wider trans community are people that I've had to like forgive for being really, for not understanding really. I think if we can forgive people for not understanding, and I think if cis people can forgive trans people for not understanding cis people's like preconceptions. If I could say anything to my younger self, I think I would, part of me would want to warn him about like who to hang out with and who not to hang out with. But really I don't think I'd want to change a thing because it's all kind of led to who I am today. The thing I would just want to tell him is that like, you're going to get to 21 and you're going to be like breathtakingly happy and comfortable and having a good time. So just like literally grin and bear, it's going to be okay.
I think that everyone shouldn't think they know everything. I think that people should keep educating themselves because at the end of the day, your life is always going to be about problem solving and you're never going to have to solve a problem that you already know. Acceptance and openness. I think that for the future we should be able to learn